Hey everyone, welcome to the Redmen TV. You're about to hear a conversation between me and the Liverpool Echo's Paul Gorst about Arne Slot and his future. The full show is available on Redmen Plus right now, and our new app is available. Go to the Google Play Store, go to the App Store, search Redmen Plus. If you subscribe now, you'll get your first month for £1, and you can watch the show in its entirety. Go and do that. I promise you won't regret it. We had a question on Discord from another state, not me. It's from another state. This isn't just me doing the Mr. Burns meme with a fake muzzy or not. No, this is another state. It was talk about Arne Slot. Obviously, you mentioned earlier just before about Chelsea have made a managerial change. Manchester United have, albeit it feels like they were for different reasons other than just performance. It feels like there was a lot of backstage, whatever, politics and disagreements and stuff with that one. So Steve's question is like, where did Liverpool at with Arne Slot in terms of, is his position under threat, or is it still? There's no signs that Liverpool have got any intention of making a change with their coach?
No, no sign that Liverpool are looking to cut Arne Slot loose and start again. They lost 9 of 12, and that was probably obviously the worst it's been this season, and he's been given the opportunities to turn it around. And is he turning it around? Slowly, I guess. 9 games unbeaten, like you say, there's a bit of an uninspiring 9-game unbeaten run, but they haven't lost since November now, and they're in the top 4. They've made some steps of progress, so it's not a situation where Arne Slot's job is hanging by a thread. I think if the Champions League places were starting to get away from them and it looked like they'd have a battle to get in there for the season, I think that's when there might start to be questions asked internally. But at the moment, like I say, Liverpool are in there. It could end up being relatively comfortable in terms of qualifying for the top 4. And it may be at the end of the season, there's something, I'm not sure. It depends what happens now between now and the rest of the season, of course. But, he's sort of at the halfway point of a 3-year contract. He's still got a lot of equity at the club from winning the Premier League. Rightly so, a lot of people would argue. So, I don't think there's any indication that a sacking is on the way. You mentioned United and Chelsea. Both of those clubs, certainly over the last 10 years, have got a history of hiring and firing and restarting projects and beginning them, and they're all just looking a bit of a mess. Liverpool, by contrast, have been nothing like that, have they, at all? And I don't think they're looking to start becoming that. So, the football might be tough to watch at the moment, and there are questions to ask over the coaching, what's the plan, all that sort of stuff. But at the moment, Slot, no question over his future.
It's interesting because, again, and no one here, when you're having a bit of an average run, poor run, whatever you want to say, everyone is a question from everything. You can look back towards the manager, the players, the recruitment in the summer, which at the time everyone lauded, maybe in hindsight, too many changes. I know there was a quote from Alexis which kind of hints at that a little bit as well. Is there maybe, again, I'm just thinking, an understanding from above Arne Slot that, things, it isn't all the manager's fault. It's like there's an accepted responsibility that, between a tragic event, between injuries, between, again, players wanting to leave, players not signing new contracts, all these new players in, that this isn't just purely Arne Slot's fault. Is that kind of maybe where what the thinking is as well, a little bit?
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. You look at the turnover, and it was, there wasn't a player who left who didn't want to leave. There was no one who was forced out for the sake of the transfer funds or whatever. Spent a remarkable amount of money, but they recouped about half of that. And it's just a new team, isn't it, really? You look at when Liverpool kicked off that season, or this season, I think it was 5 or 6 new players in the team, which is the most a title-winning, a champion squad has started to start a new season with. So it's clearly a team in transition, and there are some mitigating circumstances. Alex Isak, the nature of his transfer, without him down on tools, he probably doesn't move to Liverpool. So I think you'd probably say that was, collateral damage for the move. But then he breaks his leg against Tottenham. Mo Salah or AFCON, everyone knew that was coming down the pipeline. So you can maybe argue against that a bit more, but it's just a number of factors which have all combined. And at a time when they're not really looking like, a free-flowing, attacking outfit, I think that's where all the frustrations come in. So yeah, it's tough to watch. it is at the moment. And every game, you sort of, Liverpool just sort of getting through it, aren't they? They look like a team who are scared to lose rather than, emboldened to go and win. And that's very un-Liverpool-like. So that has got to change. Hopefully with, the return of Mo Salah, whenever that is, and Ekitike's back from injury, we might start to see a bit more, bit of pace and a bit of movement in the final third. But yeah, generally it's been a tough watch, and it's not, that hasn't even been during this unbeaten run. It's been, even when they were winning games, at the beginning of the season, it was, they were embroiled in a lot of games, weren't they? A lot of sort of shootouts, and I don't think they played well once all season, really.
It hasn't been great. Like I say, we're going to put this out, this video goes out, or the podcast goes out, and there'll be tons of comments, and there's a lot of supporters, I don't know if it's just online, in the stadium, wherever, who are a bit like questioning the manager and his position, and maybe would like to change, and it's the reason probably why Steve sent the question in on Discord as well. And I was thinking, my response has always been, I don't think they're going to fire him, because he lost 9 of 12. And if he was ever going to get sacked, it'd have been the day after PSV, when it was almost like, that's as bad as this gets. Liverpool have been battered 3 consecutive games. They've conceded, 10 goals in 3 games. And, you can get battered by City and hard lines sometimes, but then you don't get battered by Forest and battered by PSV. So that my thinking was, if they stuck by him then, they clearly think he's the right man. Obviously, there's always a bit of pushback on that as well, and I get it. And I understand people's frustrations, but it does. We are getting the sense, I suppose, like with Amorim and with Maresca, for example, who both left their recent post. There was reports from journalists, and there were stories coming out, I think, from reliable journalists, peers of yours, obviously who follow different clubs. Like yet the future's at risk, or there might be a change here, something's happening. I think especially with Maresca, that happened a bit before Amorim. It's been happening for quite a while.
Yeah.
The fact that there is no noise from Liverpool, it just feels at this moment in time, Paul, like I go back to it, that option just isn't even being considered at this moment in time.
Yeah. I mean, whenever Arne Slot speaks about Richard Hughes, it's always about how good a relationship they have, how often they're in contact. He does sort of admit that less so with Michael Edwards and the people above Michael, within the FSG circle. But yeah, there's no hint of any sort of, at loggerheads behind the scenes. Whereas that was clearly not the case with Chelsea and United. Particularly, you look at Maresca after that Everton game when he says it's been the most difficult 48 hours of my time here. I feel like I haven't been supported. And then you look at what Amorim said after the Leeds game on whenever that was, almost saying, I'm the manager, I'm not the head coach. And, 24 hours later, he in fact wasn't the manager or the head coach anymore. So, these managers have gone public with the issues behind the scenes. I think Slot's biggest issue behind the scenes has been the failure at set pieces. They haven't scored enough. They've conceded far too many, and that is why it's become a bit of a bugbear for him. And he's sounding like a broken record at times, talking about you need to win a game by a set piece or a moment of magic. And what is it? Conceded 12, is it? And scored 3. And I'd never heard the phrase negative set piece balance before this season, and it's just something that Slot is repeating a lot. And Aaron Briggs has paid for that with his job, I guess. And I think that if there is to be any sort of, discord behind the scenes, that will be where it is. The fact that Liverpool have been so poor from set pieces, and had they not been that bad, had the set piece balance, as he calls it, been a bit better, then they might be a lot better placed. So it's chalk and cheese, really, Chelsea and United compared to Liverpool. Liverpool are, generally a much more smoother sailing ship. They are the Premier League champions. We can't really discount that. Been a difficult few months, but everything that they have done, decisions that they've made over a number of years, have all been on the money to get them to the point where they were, in May as champions. So yeah, United and Chelsea, totally different kettles of fish to Liverpool, I think, in terms of how they run.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking as well before, obviously FSG have been here a long time now, I know. And in terms of managerial sackings, obviously Hodgson early on wasn't a massive surprise to everybody. I think, I know a lot of people are comparing Arne Slot at the moment to Roy Hodgson. Trust me, it's not. Liverpool went 4th under Roy Hodgson, Liverpool were 12th, 15th at some point. He went and they brought Kenny in. And then actually Kenny got sacked, but that was more of he was a stopgap while they tried to find their next one. Obviously, that's Brendan. And I felt a little bit with Rodgers at the time. Not that they delighted with how things were going under Brendan Rodgers, and there was loads of issues around squads and stuff. But it was only really when some high-class managers became available that started happening. Because if you were going to sack him in that summer, they'd have had every opportunity to do so. Liverpool had just been battered by Stoke on the last game of the season, and they stuck by Brendan. Yeah. He was allowed to spend a bit of money and such. And then it almost felt like Klopp and Ancelotti both became like serious options, and it was like, well, obviously, that make I think most people would agree that's a change you'd make. And going back to like United and Chelsea at the moment, it looks like Liam Rossini is about to become the Chelsea manager. I don't know a lot about Liam Rossini. I couldn't say it, but I'm not sure he's like the profile of manager that Liverpool will be searching for. Man United, it appears, are going to go down the interim route as well. Obviously, I know Darren Fletcher's in for the very short time, but I think a lot of the noise out in Manchester is they might do what he did with Ralph Rangnick and bring someone in till the summer and then look to get someone in. Ollie Glasner's name, for example, is being muted. Yeah. Does that maybe play into a thing as well? Because there's a lot of talk about Arne Slot and his future and who comes in. But even, I'm struggling to find like, who comes in, who's the next Liverpool manager. I mean, you got club legends, but whose track records aren't amazing. You've got really good managers across Europe, but they're all in jobs. And for example, and Enrique, he's probably not going to leave Paris now, or Tuchel's at England until the summer. It's like, does that play into this a bit as well? Because it's all well and good that if they even were considering replacing the manager, but they need to have a rough idea of who will be the next one. And I don't think Liverpool want to get. I don't think Liverpool want to get stuck in the position what Manchester United were in, where it was kind of like, it was Rangnick to the end of the season, or Amarim, but he didn't even want the job. He wanted to wait till the summer. Does that maybe play into this thing as well? You've got to know what's out there on the managerial market. Yeah,
100%. You look at when Liverpool recruited Arne Slot, it was a bit of a left field addition, I think a lot of people would say. Not necessarily a name who was jumping out of the fire, was it, when Jurgen Klopp announced that he was going to leave? But crucially, they've had, Klopp told FSG in the November of 2023 that he was going to step down. Is that right? Have I got my ears right there? And then he announces it publicly, in January of 2024. And then they officially appoint Arne Slot begins his job on the 1st of June, but it is announced
by Jurgen.
Announced by Jurgen in late May. So, and it sort of developed a bit of traction in the April. So they've had the best part of 6 months there to have space and time to study the market, to assess what coach works with this group of players that they've got, and all the incredible levels of detail that go into making sure that you get the right appointment. So I'm not sure sacking Slot mid-season offers them the same level of clarity in terms of who they want. Now, if manager A was to become available for whatever reason, and they think, well, he's a good option, but I'm not sure who that is at this point. So I think Slot will be given the benefits of the doubt. He will be given the time and space to totally turn it around. And at the moment, while it is a tough watch, I don't think going 9 games unbeaten is the sort of run where you can say that he's got to go. It's just, that's just not how football works. I would like to see an improvement in performances, a bit more attacking intent from a team of Liverpool stature, rather than being so scared to lose that it's 5 midfielders, it's men behind the ball, there's no patient transition and all that. But at the moment, like I say, for a manager who hasn't been beaten in an unbeaten run of 9 games, you can't go and sack them on the back of that.
Again, and it hasn't been the most inspiring. I don't think anyone's sitting here saying and I must admit, I said the other day, I don't think they will sack him. I'm not particularly sure they should. But I don't think anyone would be like, oh my God, it's an absolute outrage if they did. I just don't think anyone's in that camp at the moment. I think everyone's just a little bit with it. But my responsibility, I just don't think that's coming. But let us know in the comment section, guys, your thoughts on when we spoke about there on the manager and his position. That was a clip from Journo Insight. To check out the whole show, simply download the Redmen Plus app or click the link in the description.